All right, it's 6:45, a little bit early. I'm calling the Brandon Select Board meeting to order. Do I have a motion on the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It's
Okay.
unanimous.
Add that, Bill. Just not. Okay.
Next time.
Okay.
Okay, so the first item on our agenda is actually an executive session. Do I have a motion to enter executive session?
So move. Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to enter executive session per 1 BSA section 313 sub A sub 3, the appointment of a public officer to include candidate. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No, the ayes have it. We are now in executive session. A motion to come out of executive session.
I will move that we exit executive session.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No, the ayes have it. All right, so next on the agenda is everyone's favorite select board member remarks. And this is actually our time to remind everyone that hopefully we're all friends, but at least we're all neighbors and we have to see each other every day. And so even if passions are high and strong about a particular agenda item, just remember you're going to have to see us in the grocery store. And so just be nice. Anyone else have? Okay. All right, moving on, we have Chief Kachajian is present along with our newest officer, Ali Nicholas. I can't put the battery back
Bat in the thousand. Bill.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to introduce our newest police officer. This is Officer Rocio Ali Nicholas. She comes to us from the Springfield, Vermont Police Department. She's been a police officer for 1 year, and then she decided to apply to us. She lives down in Rutland, and she's going to be starting the evening shift as soon as we get her a little more acclimated to the town. She's still learning the geography, but we're extremely happy to have her here, in addition to the family.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Yep. Much better commute. But yeah, definitely.
So if anybody has any questions for either, if they'd like to ask, or just,
We're just thrilled that you decided to join us.
Thank you.
We understand you're fully certified, and so we don't have to send you off anywhere.
Yeah, I'm very excited to meet all of you. So
Thank you. Thank you. We look
She's
forward to
very-
seeing you around.
Very polite. I went over to see her and she said, she called me sir. So, you know, I know I'm old, but you know. Very nice.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for coming to meet us, and thank you, Chief.
Yeah,
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
very much.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have some visitors here from the Vermont Council on Rural Development. And they are here to talk to us about the community visit. And it's more than just one visit, it's a process. And they are going to explain it to us. It's a wonderful opportunity for Brandon, and I'm really excited about it. Take it away.
Funny being in the room. Thank you for having us. I know it's a busy agenda. My name is Alyssa Johnson. I'm the Community Visit Program Director at the Vermont Council on Rural Development.
And I'm Lauren Brady. I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator at the Vermont Council on Rural Development.
So yes, our goal today is just to provide an update. I know way back when in 2024, I was a little box on Zoom and my predecessor Jenna was here before you. We gave an overview of the community visit process. You all said, that seems like a good idea. So again, back in 2024, sent a letter requesting it. And here we are back and ready to get kicked off. I put in front of board members, and we have copies over on the side, just a little background information. So just as a quick review, the Vermont Council on Rural Development, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We actually were originally founded as part of the federal Farm Bill. That doesn't come with any money these days or anything formal. What it just means is we have a really cool board of directors. So we have representatives from the governor's cabinet, from our congressional offices, from private and nonprofit sectors, all helping guide us and say, how can we help serve rural Vermont communities? One of the ways we do that is through this community visit program. So I'll let Lauren talk a little bit more about it. Again, as was stated, it's over the next couple of months. We're just kicking off now. The big things for us to know is that we work on behalf of the whole community. We only work where we're invited. So we're here because you all, as the select board in 2024, wanted to have this process, but we now work on behalf of the whole community. So again, I'll turn it over to Lauren to talk a little bit more about what that looks like.
Right. So what does working for the whole community look like? That means that it will be a community-driven process with 3 main phases. Currently, we're in step 0, the planning phase, where we're just getting to know the community a little bit. We're learning about how to do outreach here, all that good stuff. And we'll be having a meeting next with a few community members from different aspects of the community, different walks of life, to help get us informed. We're also doing lots of phone calls. Some folks may have heard from us already. But the first phase of the process, the first public phase, will be hopefully a really fun event. It will be dinner, and there will be music, and we'll also do some forums before and after dinner to hear from community members and brainstorm what's working well in the community, what's challenging this community, and what do you all want to do about it? What does your community members want to do about it that they can take action on, and not create another to-do list for the select board, but really come together as a community around shared values and start taking action that they're excited about. So that's the first step. It's really brainstorming. We'll do public forums. We'll visit the schools and hear from the youth. We'll put out public surveys. And then the second phase will be to kind of congregate all of that information and look through it and sort of identify those big ideas, shared ideas for action. And the community will, at that point, prioritize those action ideas. So choose the top few that feel like the right priorities to take action on now. What's important, what's impactful, all that good stuff. And the community will make that decision at the second meeting. We are here just to be facilitators, so we don't know what that will look like. It could be anything from I don't know, in past communities, we've seen childcare initiatives or community events initiatives, or which I know you have robust here, but it can also be big infrastructure projects, which I know you've also taken on here recently. So it could be very open-ended, and we don't know what it will be, but we will help you figure it out and take action on it. So the third step of the process is that taking action phase. And at that phase, we will work to bring in statewide, regional leaders and experts, resource providers, and they will come to listen in to the community and support the community in building action plans and suggest resources that the community can tap into. And then we will help the community with a final report and in finding some leaders who want to take on those different areas of action. And that'll be 3 months out in June or July, and you all will be taking on some new projects. So yeah, that's the big picture. Is there anything I missed, Alyssa, that you want to touch on?
I think that was a great overview. And again, our goal is that we want this process to be designed by you all. So that's why we're here tonight, because we're at the very beginning of the process. We haven't started. So we don't know how to plan an event in Brandon, how to get the word out. We don't know anything about Brandon. We're driving around today. So again, that's that goal of bringing folks together. But everyone will be invited. I guess that's the big message too, is look for late May, late June, late July. We'll be, again, working with folks to make sure they don't conflict with any dates. I did also search our archives and find the retro Brandon Community Visit 1999, back when we started this about 30 years ago. This is our last copy, so I will keep it. But there's some more recent ones on the table if anyone's curious. So that's all we had. Obviously, we would love to have one of you select board members join us for that planning meeting. But otherwise, that was the only other business we had, was just to give that update, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
So the planning meeting on Tuesday, is that specifically invited people? Is it open to the public, or how is that?
Great question. It is the one point in the process we do specifically invited, because we're currently at about 30 people, and beyond that, it becomes just hard to facilitate as a meeting.
Okay.
Again, the goal is also not to have the entire select board there, but to have one person. So we've had, kind of tried to get one representative. I will say your town manager, Seth, and Bill were very helpful in giving us a list of names, and then it kind of begins the spider web of phone calls as we call folks. But certainly, if any of you have suggestions or folks you feel are important, we would welcome that feedback and are happy to invite anyone who wants to be there.
Okay, thank you. Anyone volunteering to go on Tuesday?
Next week?
Not tomorrow.
Next week from tomorrow.
My calendar.
Should be
I could if nobody else does, but if somebody else wants to.
Tuesday the 20. I can do it next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
You
right.
get Jeff.
Jeff will be the one. We'll look forward to it. Well, thank you. And again, that process is really outlined on the one pager and more copies here. But thank you again for the time, and we're looking forward to it. We're really excited. One of my favorite parts of the job is inviting everyone. So for those kickoff forums, we invite folks from our board, from state level leadership, to come to Brandon and hear directly from you all. So we're looking forward to bringing a big entourage to town. So thanks again for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. We have a possible consent agenda to approve recurring matters, which include the minutes from our March 9th meeting, the warrant by which we pay the bills, a number of liquor license renewals, and a catering and special event permit. Do I have a motion to consider a consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to consider a consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor for considering a consent agenda? Any opposed? No, it's unanimous. All right, do we have a motion on the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yep, on the minutes, there's an error in the minutes, just a minor one, just had the date wrong as to what the meeting date was. So it's correct on the agenda, but it is incorrect at the top of
Oh.
the minutes.
March
It
9th.
says February 23rd instead of March 9th.
Okay, with that correction.
1,000 apologies.
Ms. Coolidge?
Sir. Sir. No, they're not. A first-class liquor license, you can sell spirits. A second-class liquor license is like a grocery store. It's not for on-premises consumption. It's only to take away beer and wine. Got that backwards. First-class liquor license is beer and wine on premises. Second class is beer and wine off premises. Third class is beer, wine, and spirits on premises.
Okay. Any other discussion, questions? All right. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nope, the ayes have it. Okay, reports to the select board, Mr. Hopkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, members of the public on Zoom. I submitted my report and I only have a few things to highlight, 3 things to highlight and 1 update. The 3 things to highlight are, I do want to thank Select Board Member Coolidge for the suggestion about the modification of the traffic light by the library. So that is now a leader green arrow. If you're in the center of town trying to turn onto Park Street, the green arrow comes on first now instead of after the other traffic comes at you from the south. That was helpful. I think it's working well. We have had 8 administrative professionals interested in the full-time job at the town office for Mrs. Smith's retirement. We've conducted 2 interviews and have another for tomorrow. We've had 1 applicant for the part-time unbenefited position in zoning, health, and rental housing. And Bill and I have been kind of trying to do those tasks in the meantime. It was a good interview, and we will continue to work with that candidate to see if they want to continue on. And for an update, I have a glorious update that thanks to all for your patience, and thanks to the family in Brandon who have been the town clock keepers for several generations. The town clock is now showing the right time.
Hey.
So that is great. And we thank Dan Snow, who formerly was on the town highway department. He is, I think, the 3rd generation of his family to be the clock keepers, and everything is back in good order inside the clock. And you might recall that over the summer, there was some cooperation with the Congregational Church steeple repair project, and the town at the same time had the clock faces repaired on the outside and the numbers replaced that were rotting and so forth. So I think the town clock should be in good order for some time forward.
Yay.
It was a surprise to me how very many people notice when the town clock is not working.
I was surprised by how many questions I got about when it would work.
Yes.
So I'm very happy that I can now say, look, it's working. Right, Mr. Moore.
This is my report for March 23rd, 2025. The town hall will host the 4th annual Kids Idol singing competition on Friday, April 3rd. This is a junior version of the Brandon Idol that will see the winner picked that night, and they'll have the chance to perform at the Brandon Idol finale. Doors open at 6:30 with a show at 7. On April 10th, we have invited both of the premier Middlebury a cappella groups, the Mama Jammas and the Dissipated 8, for a night of fun. The doors open at 6 with the show. Actually, I've got an update from them. They would like to start at 6. That's right. No, I got it right. Doors open at 6. So the show begins at 6:30. Free will offering. Our summer planning will include new offerings like a sewing club for middle school age participants and a family field trip. Stay apprised by visiting brandonrec.com. The Forestdale Shared Use Path Scoping Study is getting closer to completion. The draft report will be presented at the Preferred Alternatives Public Meeting on April 8th, 6:30 p.m. here at the Town Hall. There is an opportunity to attend by Zoom using the town's meeting ID 253-279-4161. All of the information for the study can be found at tinyurl.com/Forestdale Shared Use Path. There's a tentative date for field cleanup at the Neshabie School's 2 baseball fields in the field at Otter Creek Academy, Leicester, on April the 11th from 10 to 12. Reach out by way of email to brandonvermont.gov to volunteer. We're also creating a new T-ball practice field at the park on Wheeler Road and on town-owned parcels on Newton Road, all of which we received from FEMA buyouts, and T-ball fields are an allowed use. Our Highway Division Chief has confirmed that Vermont Roadworks' first job of the year will be the repaving of the court at Estabrook. We just need the weather to break. We've made the decision to have just one public entrance gate for the Seminary Hill Dog Park. This is to help users rest assured that their 4-legged friends won't escape if someone happened to leave the gates on the south side of the park open. That's my report for tonight.
Any questions for the town manager or Mr. Moore, our deputy town manager, on their reports?
I got one. At the end of your report, you talk about the Union Street match and Wheeler Road next summer. Is it Wheeler Road because we're now have the decision to move on with that, or have we applied for Class 2 road match grants?
No, so I've had that as a placeholder, just kind of as a reminder for a little bit of time. I don't think any decision or even discussion has happened at the board level about whether to go ahead with Wheeler Road. We absolutely will apply for Class 2 paving, but we're never sure whether there'll be enough funds in the program to fund our projects.
When does that happen?
It happens the end of next month.
Thank you.
Yep.
Ms. DeSorda.
Vicky DeSorda. My question is about the part-time position that was for zoning and rentals. Is that in addition to the full-time?
Yes. So the full-time position was Mrs. Smith, who had been with the town 37 years and 9 months in a full-time capacity. The part-time position is for Mr. Larry Stevens, who had been with the town for a couple of years, but that position has been funded for some time as a part-time job.
It's not in addition to staff.
It's not any additional
It's
staff.
replacing two people who have left.
Oh, I didn't realize Larry had left.
Larry at the early part of March, took another employment opportunity.
Okay, I thought his position was a full-time position as well.
No, that was never a full-time. So, I'll clarify. So the zoning, rental housing and health officer is 3 days a week, no benefits. That was Larry's.
Okay.
He took a position with benefits
Oh,
elsewhere. And Elaine's was 5 days a week with benefits.
okay. Thank you.
Any more questions from the public? Mr. Hopkins or Mr. Moore? Okay. Moving on. Consider appointment of animal control officer. So, just in advance of this meeting, the select board had an opportunity to interview Carly Lair, for the position of our animal control officer. And at this point, do I have a motion?
I make a motion, we offer the position to Carly Lair.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor of appointing Ms. Lair to be the town animal control officer, say aye. Aye. Any opposition? No, the ayes have it. Number 9, consider appointment of a substitute alternate zoning administrator. Mr. Hopkins, would you like to explain?
Yes, Madam Chair. So, when Larry was the zoning administrator, he asked for the appointment of an alternate zoning administrator, which is something that the state encourages and the state facilitates through statute. The point of having an alternate zoning administrator in place is if the zoning administrator has a conflict of interest on a particular application and can't act in a way that is definitely impartial or will be perceived as impartial, the alternate zoning administrator would process that application and make a decision. So the board at some point, I don't really remember when, appointed Natalie Steen as the alternate zoning administrator. So she acts in the absence of the zoning administrator or when he can't act because of a conflict. So what has been happening is I'm kind of with Bill doing the underwriting part, you know, the paperwork, pulling of files and checking of maps and stuff like that when people bring in applications. And Natalie, as the alternate zoning administrator, then reviews them and makes sure that she's comfortable saying yes or no or whatever she says. However, there's already an application in which Natalie has an apparent conflict of interest and can't act. And because we don't have a zoning administrator, I'm requesting that the select board appoint me as the substitute alternate zoning administrator. I do not want to be the zoning administrator. Essentially to handle one application in which the alternate zoning administrator is not able to act without the appearance of a conflict of interest.
And
I have no conflict of interest in that application.
And I will say I did express some concern about Seth taking on yet another role, and he's already busy, but I am assured that this is probably a one-off and hopefully will not require too much of his time. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, would Natalie be it once we name a person to do the job 3 days a week? Is she willing to stay?
I would say Natalie's going to stay the alternate zoning administrator right through. She's just going to recuse herself from this one
So
application.
this is an alternate.
Yeah, substitute junior. Yeah.
Okay.
It could be. You could appoint, you could appoint Mr. Moore. You could appoint you could appoint the town clerk. You could appoint a number of people, any of a number of people. You could appoint one of yourselves because it's not an incompatible office.
Mr. Bueller.
Brent Bueller. I just have a question on the contact for animal control. I went on the website here and I didn't see a contact number, phone number, or what would it be?
She's only been on the job for 3 minutes.
I know, but there could be a dog tomorrow. I've had these emergencies where I need a phone number. Mr. Kingston was great about it. I had his cell phone number and he
Have you
was
got it,
real
Bill?
good.
I guess Bill's got it handy.
We'll make sure it's posted ASAP.
Or Carly. Oh, no, she's on it. She's like,
Phone number for the public, in case it will be put on the website in the next 12 hours, 802-282-3777. And I believe the email address is aco@brandonvermont.gov.
Thank you.
Question at the back.
It's just sort of.
Could a member of the public be appointed as the,
Absolutely anything.
I'll volunteer.
All right, do we have a,
I was gonna say, what knowledge would be necessary to do that?
So the person will need to take the application and read it against the Brandon Land Use Ordinance and apply the provisions of the Brandon Land Use Ordinance literally to the proposed project.
Can you give, I don't know what's public, can you give some indication of where, or
It's in the Mount Pleasant neighborhood.
so we have, Ms. DeSorda has expressed an interest in serving in this capacity. Mr. Hopkins has also, suggested he could serve in this capacity. Do we have a motion?
It's just a one-time case.
It's a one-off.
Okay, I'll make a motion, and I want to clearly state my reasons, but I make a motion for Mr. Hopkins because he's already been working on this case for timeframe since the conflict has arisen, and the timeframe to get this done kind of has to happen. So I would make a motion for Mr. Hopkins.
I will second with the follow-up comment that Vicky would love to have you volunteer again, should something like this come up again. And we can do it a little more.
I would also note that we do, I think, have an opening on the Development Review Board, which addresses these permits when they are denied or need to be changed. So that's also a possibility if anyone is interested in that. It's been open for quite a while. It's not a really glamorous job, but it's, someone has to do it. So, all right.
I am an alternate on the. And it's
very glamorous.
It's not a very glamorous job.
Pretty glamorous, but
I sit in on probably over 3/4 of the hearings because somebody is missing. So you are mainly a voting member, so it's not just. So.
all right. So we have a motion and a second to appoint Mr. Hopkins as the alternate substitute, junior. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right. Number 10, Mr. Moore, we have an application for the revolving loan fund.
Yes, Madam Chair. So I'm just going to read from my letter. We have familiar face coming before you for a revolving loan, but a familiar successful face. Andy Donor. I'll just read from my letter and then expound. Select Board members, on March the 19th, the Brandon Revolving Loan Fund Committee met with Andy Donor to consider a loan request for Amateur Sports Bar LLC. The board was impressed by the presentation and his plan to establish a sports bar and family entertainment business in a recently vacated storefront. From the substantial personal investment in upfitting the space to the extraordinarily thorough business plan that details taking advantage of a hole in the region. A hole in the regional market. There's no real sports bars in Rutland or Addison counties. Andy demonstrated that his latest successful business venture will add real value to the community. The loan request was approved with unanimous and enthusiastic endorsement from the board members that were present. The revolving loan fund committee recommends the following terms. The loan amount is $40,000. The terms are 4.75% interest rate, as amortized as an 84-month loan with a balloon payment at 48 months. Security will be collateral in the first security interest in all business assets of the Amateur Sports Bar LLC and first security interest in equipment purchased using the RLF funds list to be provided at the closing. A mortgage lien on personal property of Andy Donors located at 2192 Franklin Street, and a personal loan guarantee signed by all the principals of Amateur Sports Bar LLC. And just a question actually that came up, impromptu question came up. Typically what will happen is the revolving loan fund committee will put out these loans, and if we have a payer that's made it all the way through without missing a payment, is in good standing, when it gets to the balloon, they will extend them beyond to go the entire length of it's sort of a check valve, an opportunity to, if somebody has a bad loan payment, to accelerate the loan. So with that, Andy Donor is here if he has any questions.
On the board? So I understand that we've had a successful history with Mr. Donor on revolving loan fund loans, and a number of successful businesses in town because of that. And so, you know, I'd like to see continued success with that loan fund. I appreciate that we have some additional security on this one, and that Mr. Donor does not have a problem with that additional security.
And if I could just add, you know, the additional security, especially having, you know, a mortgage lien on a property that's owned in Brandon, is a lesson that's been learned by the revolving loan fund committee.
Mr. Bueller.
Yeah, Brett Bueller again. I want to thank you for listing. This is the first time I've seen the collateral actually expressed for one of these. And I want to thank you for that, because, you know, there's been numerous ones. Are we getting gummies for the dispensary? I mean, you know, sometimes you wonder. So thank you for doing that this time. And I hope it continues in the future.
Yeah. And let you know, there's one of these letters for every one of these things. This was in the last one I think we did for Pine Grove Gardens LLC. This is another letter just like this.
Right. What is the pleasure of the board?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Right. We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All
Yep.
those in favor?
I was going to say thank you to the donors for continuing to support small business and start small businesses in town.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd just like to say for the public that's here that the revolving loan fund is not taxpayer money, and that this board really is blessing the decision that the revolving loan board, they're the ones that get into the nitty gritty of it, and we just kind of say yes. So that's all.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nope. The ayes have it.
Thank you. Thank you, Andy. I see your hair's turned gray since you first started doing this, so I know it's working.
Okay. All right. Now we all know why everyone's here. Number 11. Let's talk about the bid results for the tandem highway truck. Mr. Hopkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we did have 3 bids for supplying the town with a replacement truck for the highway department. These are the large trucks, one of the 2 large tandems. You have the chart there. You have my little memo about why it's needed, which I won't belabor. And I'm happy to answer questions from the board, I guess, at this point, or hear from the board.
So I know we've discussed this again, but remind us why it's essential at this point to purchase. So we have a 2017 Mac.
Right.
It's my understanding that it has been less than reliable this past season.
There was some time during which the Mac had to be more than a couple of weeks out of commission to be serviced. Yes. So the concept is that the truck still has value. It's not, mechanically flawed. It's not rusting out. It's 9 or 10 years old, just about crowding in on the 10-year-old mark because of model years, right? And that it's really inadvisable to be without one of the large plow trucks during the winter. It would be a serious deficiency and prevent our highway department team from opening the roads up for safe travel. So it seems to me that selling the truck, while it still has value, because as you know, this asset is going to continue to decline in value over the coming period of time, no matter whether nothing at all happens to it going forward repair-wise. That asset's going to keep lowering in value, and the asset that we're going to try to acquire to replace its function is going to keep increasing in its price. So I don't think it makes a lot of sense to hang on to the depreciating asset to put off purchasing a replacement truck, which is not going to be cheaper than it is at this moment. These are big ticket items that tend to be sensitive to inflation pressures in lots of different ways. And the economy is a little bit unsettled right at the moment. So I think there's a very good price that we've been quoted from Fairfield, from whom we've bought equipment before. And I would encourage the board to consider that. I had some recommendations below for how to fund it without taking a loan. I did speak with the town treasurer. She and I both agree that it's not an awesome time to borrow either. So I think the combination of those factors means using cash on hand from the capital fund and from the fund balance is the better way to go for the town than incurring another loan payment at a rate of interest that will be higher than what we have been getting used to paying.
And then we would sell the Mac, and the
Right.
money from that would, if we took from the capital fund, we would just funnel that.
Back to the
Back
capital
into the
fund would
capital
be my
fund.
suggestion, yes.
We currently, our unrestricted fund balance is 725,066. Our capital fund balance is 75,697. And we also have some local option tax money that we could use if we wanted to spread the wealth, so to speak.
I guess the first decision would be whether to do it.
Right.
The next component would be when to do it. The third component would be how to fund it.
On your second note, what sort of timeline would we be looking at to actually have the vehicle?
So up at the top, you'll see the first two quotes are about 2 years before we would actually receive the next truck. That's getting kind of into the realm of common with this kind of equipment, especially when they supply the truck and then later they put the dump body on it and so forth. But Fairfield has a different business model, and their business model is essentially they buy the stuff, they get it ready, and they sell it to who comes along. And so they say 90 days after the order, which to me is a lot more attractive than 2 years, especially because that means 2 winters where we would be, I think, rolling the dice a little bit with the reliability of one of the big plows.
And so they've already upfitted it,
Right.
and
I mean, they have to, the plow that Jeremy selects will have to be mounted to it, like that kind of thing, but the
Right.
dump body is on it, which is the thing that takes the most time.
right.
Is the plow included in this number?
Yeah, so it's got the components, and we would be looking to sell the Mac with its plow and wing and so forth.
So that's a significant difference in price.
It's an amazing difference to me.
Especially given that we'll have it this summer if we were to buy it.
Right. Right.
So as far as question 1 goes, I'll make a motion that we purchase the the Western Star at $302,221.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of purchasing the Western Star 49X for the bid of $302,221, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nope, the ayes have it. Okay. And now the fun part.
Could I give a little bit more information on the funding part?
Sure.
Okay, so you have the capital fund balance there, 75,697. You have the local option tax balance, 513,861. You have the general fund balance, $725,066. I just want to advise that the FY26 budget, which is the budget, I believe is going to come in on the order of $250,000 or $300,000 under budget. I think there's going to be that amount. It's almost certain because there's some money built into that budget that mathematically we can't spend in the next 3 months on for the purposes that it was planned to spend.
Right.
So my suggestion would be use some or all of the capital fund, maybe not all. And my suggestion would be to take the balance from the fund balance to buy this truck from Fairfield, knowing that after this fiscal year closes, the fund balance is going to recover in a six-figure kind of way from the surplus that's going to result this year's spending.
And we already have a healthy fund balance.
We have a healthy fund balance. This would impair it for, 3 months and not impair it beyond the low limit
Right.
of the fund
We'd still be
policy.
above.
You'd still be above the low limit. You just wouldn't be nearer the high limit.
Gotcha. So,
And that would leave untouched the local option tax fund.
Are there any accounting implications of emptying the capital fund?
That was a question that was raised. These are not anymore the way they used to be. They used to be separate accounts at the bank.
Right.
And they're not anymore. It's kind of a giant town of Brandon account at the bank. And all the funds that we talk about all the time are just components of that. So this all can be done with transactions that will make sense. I talked with the town treasurer this morning, and what will actually happen so that there's transparency for the voters and the board and the auditors is when we do, in your my town manager's report, I give you like the budget, but just by departments.
right.
You get one of those and there will be at the top of the expense lines, there'll be a line that says transfer out $200,000. And that will be going out to the capital fund to fund the purchase.
Okay.
So that's how it will show up.
Okay. Okay.
In that case, do we need a motion for this or are we just advising?
This is enough money to make a motion.
Can I make
Yeah.
a second suggestion though?
Yes.
Should we not maybe talk about the next one down and then figure how we're paying for both of them
Yeah.
simultaneously, or so we don't corner ourselves first? I don't know. It's up to
It's up to the
the
chair.
chair.
Sure. I mean, I was thinking that might be a good idea just because that could affect how much would be going into the reserve. So next on, so just to recap, we've decided to buy the truck. We just haven't decided on how to pay for it yet. So next up, we have bid results for a police cruiser. And Mr. Hopkins, can you fill us in on where we are on that?
Yes, so you have a similar memo, but you'll see many, many more bids come in for police cruisers than come in for tandem dump trucks. So you have a lot of bids there. Chief Kachajian and Lieutenant Samataro have reviewed all the bids in detail, and they have discussed with their officers to get their input. They've polled the officers for their preferences. They prioritize all-wheel drive, the capacity to carry the necessary equipment, safety and reliability of the cruiser, and the physical stature of the present staff. Their recommendation is that these vehicles are all 2026, and they recommend vehicle letter C, letter G, letter N, which are respectively a Ford Interceptor SUV from Ford of Claremont, New Hampshire. The vehicle price $43,388. A 2026 Dodge Durango SUV from John Jones, PPV, which is police pursuit vehicles from Croydon, Indiana, at $42,012 for the vehicle. And a 2026 Ford Bronco SUV, smaller than an Explorer, at $46,538 for the vehicle, or $52,968 partially upfit from Auto Fair Ford of Haverhill, Mass.
So on the ones that would still need to be upfitted, is that,
The upfitting is toward the end of my memo. The broad estimate, the estimate where you will be safe, is if you count on $25,000 to upfit a cruiser. So you'd add that to the 45, or add that to the 42, or add that to the 50, or whatever.
Okay.
Those would be done in Vermont unless you bought the Bronco from Auto Fair Ford, and then the chief does recommend we take the partial upfit that they're offering in their package, and we do what is left to be done in Vermont.
Got a question on the cruisers.
Yes.
Do we know, or have we discussed as a board what our number should be, what we're looking for the total number of cruisers for the department?
I don't know that you have as a board. So I can tell you what we have in the fleet right now. We have a 2020 F-150 that's had a little bit of repair work lately. We have a 2022 Explorer and a 2023 Charger. So those are the three that we have. Some of the dealers, maybe just one of the dealers, in fact, maybe two, gave a price for trading in the F-150 because the department is interested in moving away from that as a vehicle for us, partly because of the repairs and reliability issue, and partly because of the size.
so I mean,
So I don't know, 3 cars, 4 cars. I don't think 5 cars is necessary.
I agree. 5's not necessary.
I feel
I'd
like
actually,
we talked about 4 at some point.
We may
If
have.
we have 5 officers.
right. Hopefully there's going to be some extended hours on policing, but I'd kind of like to hear what our mechanic says and what his thoughts on this are. And I know he's here.
All right.
So as far as the cruisers, the 2019 F-150 or 20 150, my bad. Yeah. So 53,000 miles on it, doesn't have any rust issues. Definitely better than average shape because it hasn't been overly abused. So it's still a pretty good asset. I believe it's the only one in the fleet that does have a tow hitch on it for the speed car. So moving the speed car around, that is right now the only one that moves it. The 22 Explorer, I don't remember what the mileage is on that, but I think it's cresting around 20 something or 30. I don't remember. And that is out of warranty. So that is the town's baby if something needs to be fixed on it. But as far as, the F-150, I think, was there somebody had offered 16,000? Does that sound right on it? I think that's pretty light for a 53,000 mile truck. That's a crew cab, 4-wheel drive, for sure. So I guess I wouldn't want to jump it, wanting to trade it in for that. I think definitely selling it outright would get you far more money, but as far as runnability, like any vehicle, you're going to have some issues here and there with it, but nothing fatal has been found with it. So, and again, the body is good and it is very inspectable. So I don't think, and it is the only one to pull a speed car. And when you do need like bed space for something that the PD has in the past, especially like putting cones up for when roads flood or they have lines down or whatever, they load the cones in that. They use that truck for numerous things that they don't have a lot of extra room in the cars anymore, the SUVs, because their equipment is all packed in them and stacked in them. So putting a whole set of cones in is even hard. So I guess that would be my thought on the F-150. Unless somebody has some other questions about any of the others.
And do we know, I mean, personally, I think having at least one truck is useful just in terms of things that you can do with it. Do we have an understanding of why is the chief's concern is that it just isn't great for day-to-day cruiser use, or?
My understanding from the chief is that the officers expressed that it wasn't their favorite cruiser of the fleet to drive. Yeah, so maybe on a day-to-day basis, it's not as comfortable or it's not as suitable, they think, for what they're doing with it.
I know at one point we had, I don't know if it came up at a board meeting or not, where there was talk about, because we have potentially such a large amount left in the police budget, that it would be appropriate to, since we have 3 cruisers now, that would we want to trade in an older one and get 2 new cruisers, or are we happy with the 3 that we have and just want to go ahead and get the 1? And I don't know if anyone on the board has thoughts about that.
Personally, I think the 3 we have and getting 1 is sufficient.
Yeah.
And how long are these bids? Is there
30 days.
30-day bids?
Yeah.
How long have they been out?
They were 30-day bids from the time that they were due in, which was Thursday last week.
So it's my impression that even if maybe at some point we want to trade in the F-150, it's not a matter of urgency to trade it in tomorrow.
And I think you can get far more money if you did put it on something like Municipal. You would get more than the 16.
And you certainly don't have to trade it in. You can certainly sell it and still buy 2 cruisers with the idea that you're going to sell it, or you can keep them.
There is that I guess, you certainly changed my mind a little bit with, the fact that is the only thing with a tow hit, and there are times like when we have put bike rate in there, and a lot of stuff around. It doesn't have to be a vehicle that gets used every day. We had 3 other cruisers, still had that truck as the truck of last use, or the truck that moves a speed cart around. I don't know, 50,000 miles, certainly not a lot of miles on something nowadays. I know you had it in for servicing and it was having
New
issues
issues.
or something.
Yeah.
problem.
So these newer vehicles, as far as coolant lines on, they're not like old vehicles anymore where you had a clamp and a hose. Now it's hose that are pushing up. And the push locks start to leak, or the crimps on them, and every vehicle from like 2020 forward has them on them. And they're going to start to give issues. And you're going to replace some of those hoses. Well, they're form fit. You got to buy them from Ford, most of them. Okay. As they start to leak a little bit, you'll have to replace such things as that. But that got as crazy as it was. There was one inner hub on it that was starting to go bad. Not crazy money, not very labor intense to change it. So little things that go on with it, but the truck sat for probably 8 months with no use. And I say 8 months is a conservative number. And that doesn't do with these vehicles any justice either when they're not being run. But I do know that I've seen the lieutenant in it almost every day. So I believe primarily he's driving this truck around, so it is getting use. So I don't think it's been parked. The other thing was it had been parked so long. It had a new battery December of 24, and it had been parked so long that the battery went dead enough times that it had ruined it. And luckily the parts company stepped up and they gave us a replacement battery, even though it wasn't their fault, for nothing. So we just exchanged it, and put a new battery in it. So, and it wasn't at the town's cost.
I came in thinking that I definitely wanted to get rid of the truck, but I'm now thinking a little bit about, we also have an awful lot of dirt roads. We have some locations where we could have some activity where a pickup truck can get to the car hidden in town. But it doesn't have to be driven every day. So I don't know. I'm clearly in favor of at least one vehicle, one new vehicle, and maybe keep the truck for another year, but I can be swayed.
I'm also curious about any upliftings. I know you've done various stuff
Oh,
with
upfitting?
cruisers, upfitting on them. You've done stuff with
So-
dog cages and whatever. with
Yeah,
cruisers,
we've
so-
upfitted the current cruisers with, we did the dog cage for the canine vehicle. We did the prisoner cages for all of these vehicles that were done after the fact of the vehicle originally was upfitted, but they wanted certain things. We did that. We did lighting. We did radars. We did any upfitting that was needed. And then the last two new cruisers for Pittsburgh, the 22 and the 24, we completely upfitted both of those Durangos, 100%. So we can upfit a new vehicle. It's about a 3-week turnaround, but we can upfit completely, soup to nuts, getting it upfitted. And the best part of that is, like, when they got this other cruiser that was upfitted and delivered from Pennsylvania, is that correct? Still had to have a radio. So once you got it here, you made an appointment to get a radio in it 10 days later. And then you had registration issues you had to take care of. That took time. So it really wasn't road ready when it got here. And then I guess the other part of it was the chief had reached out and came by, and there were 3 or 4 issues that were not finished on that cruiser from the upfit. And it wasn't like you can just drive down to Pennsylvania and get them to do some, completion of that. So we ended up taking care of that. But if you upfitted anywhere here in Vermont, they could put the radios in where it's being upfit, so you don't have to waste that time. You get the registration all taken care of. You don't have to waste that time. Everything's done in-house. And if I know they were having issues, it was supposed to be delivered like in August, and it didn't make it till December, and it wasn't being used probably till January. If somebody's upfitting it in the state and you reach out and say, hey, where are we with this? At least in the state, you can get in a vehicle and you can go look for yourself. And it's not 3 states away where you have to kind of take somebody's word. It's where you kind of have a handle on things and know what's going on. So, yeah, it's definitely something to look at, because these upfitters, when they upfit them, they're looking for multiple vehicles for a department, 2, 3, 4. And then those people go to the head of the line and they finish those vehicles first, where you got a onesie for like Podunk, Brandon, Vermont. They're like, well, we're waiting for this and we're waiting for that. And you kind of wonder if they're shining you on a few things because it takes so long, because they mass produce these 3 vehicles or 4 vehicles for, say, New York City, and they're out the door quick, where the one vehicle, you can wait quite a while. So all things to consider, ponder.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Got a hand in the back.
Oh, Mr. Nielsen.
Good evening. Why don't we just put a trail hitch on each of the cop cars? I got one on my Buick. It pulls 800 pounds. Get a small trailer. You can hold the cones around the trailer, and we could tow that at a speed limits thing with the cop cars. I think every cop car we should have a trailer hitch on the back. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I actually was surprised to hear that we only had the one car with the tow.
I think certainly if and when we need to replace the F-150, we should look into making sure we have a tow hitch on at least one of them, and preferably a couple of them.
So, so things that I see in favor of possibly selling the F-150 and getting 2 cruisers is that we have, for lack of a better term, a bit of a budget windfall going on this year. that we can get new vehicles now with money that we know we will have. But I also see it's like truck's not that old and it's only got 50,000 miles on it. And, I'm not a big fan of driving my car either, but I drive it. So I'm not sure, how much that should factor in. So, I mean, I can see, good arguments on both sides. And so I'm happy to be convinced either way.
I think if we're going to sell the truck outright, which is what the plan that you proposed is a good plan. I mean, certainly not trading it in. And I am clearly in favor of sticking with the dealer that's fairly close to here. They like the Ford, the three vehicles that they gave us, a Ford and a Dodge Durango. And I know in the past we had some trouble with some Dodges. I don't know, but I could clearly see us dealing with Claremont, New Hampshire for at least one vehicle, if not two.
Have we gotten something from Claremont before?
No.
Okay.
What's the lead time or what's the delivery time on the
In
cruisers?
each case, the cars that have a price for just the car are kind of ready for immediate delivery. Once the select board places an order, it'd probably be a week or two, depending on paperwork. All the upfits are extended time.
Where does that go to get upfitted?
So some of them will do it at the dealer that's indicated. Otherwise, the chief was recommending going with something called Yipes Stripes, a little bit north of Stowe.
Okay, so still in Vermont.
Yep.
We should have a tow hitch put on the moon. If we get
Surely.
a new one, we should
Sure.
have right on it.
Excellent.
We couldn't
Excellent
upfit at
observation.
Thunder?
Sorry?
We couldn't upfit at Thunder where it's
We
right
absolutely
here?
could. Yes. So any of these are just prices for cars, and then we can go out and look for some quotes for upfitting. Upfitting is going to be more than I will be able to authorize as town manager for money.
So
So
we
I'll be
need to-
back to you anyway.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we just request bids.
It's just a matter of the time before it can be put in service. And I don't think that there's a massive urgency associated with it.
My only last question, I guess, comes from your conversations with the chief and lieutenant.
Yeah.
In the
Department
capacity of the truck, we'll say, to get into, out at the end of High Pond Road, if there was ever something that police had to respond there, or up past my house up in the basin, you're not taking one of these other cars running up into those places. And I'm sure there's a lot of other places in town, but have they kind of thought of that's a great reason to have a truck, or did they?
I won't say that was expressed to me.
Okay.
Like, I don't think that was a big consideration. I don't know if it's because they have not had many occasions to get onto a class 4 road.
Yeah, they would have very few
Yeah.
occasions to go up there, but
Yeah.
I know of one reason they would go up the mountain and back of my house. And I know when there was an accident up there, a 4-wheeler accident, and the fire department had to come, they had nothing that could get up through the ledges up there. They had to move somebody's truck or something to get up in there. So I don't,
I want to be clear with the board. Like, I'm not advocating for divest of the truck. I'm just saying that had come up in the past, and I told you I would investigate it. And so this is kind of the result of the investigation. And likewise with the selections, you authorized me to go out to bid. I went out to bid, got a big list. A big list kind of not useful unless you have some professional input as to what would be suitable for the people who are actually using it. So that's why I went to the chief and asked him for some recommendations to narrow down the list.
I'm not in favor of getting rid of the F-150. I think it's a good asset to have. It still has decent value. But
Okay, I'm going to take this down. Yeah. Can I make a motion?
You sure can.
Hold on.
I'm going to.
Oh, wait.
Go ahead.
I've got a kind of a concern about adding another vehicle to the fleet. When the mechanic said we had a cruiser set around so long the battery went dead in, we're gonna add a fourth one. I just hope our police department will rotate them enough where they use them and be on patrol with them where we see them in town, that we use every vehicle. We don't let one sit around where the battery goes dead in it.
So could I make an observation? So I think during that period of time, that would have been the period of time when there was only the chief and Ethan. But I will say, when the chief came to see me and Bill every Thursday at the town office, he was driving the truck. He took it out on purpose because he knew that they weren't using it. So I believe that they took some effort to try to exercise it. Maybe it was not sufficient in the winter or whatever, but it was not just left to be unused.
No, I'm glad to hear that, but even with 2 officers and 3 cruisers, if you rotate every other day, you're still gonna use them where the battery shouldn't go dead.
Well, and hopefully with a full complement of officers, we won't have that problem. But I agree that it's like, it's not that hard to take a car out every once in a while. So, Mr. Bullock, you have a question?
Hello, Billy Bullock. Is there any inherent issues with buying 2 new cars from the same year so that in 3 years we've got 2 cars that have issues at the same time? Been down that road with my family and won't do that again. And we actually had new cars, problems at the same time, couldn't get to work. So that's one issue, one question. The other question is, it is prudent that our rescue services, whether they're police, first aid, or fire, can access every road, public road in this town, regardless of the conditions of the road. And if that requires us to have a big truck, that's what it takes. Now, whether we can borrow the fire department truck, I'm sure they've got a big brush up that can just about get anywhere it needs to go. But there is the question. We need to be able to access every public road in this town. So.
Thank you.
I think your point.
I do want to assure the community, I'm confident that we can. I'm confident that the police could reach every address where there's a house in Brandon.
Can I ask one more question, Mr. Hopkins? Quickly, and then after that, I know Jeff wants to say something. I'm ready to make a motion, but I am only questioning if the police had expressed any advantage to a Bronco type Ford over the Interceptor. I don't even know what an Interceptor is.
The Interceptor is the Explorer for police work.
Okay. Because the Ford Bronco, even though it's a little more money, does say partial upfit. So I don't know if that saves us some of the 25,000.
It would save some.
Okay.
And so
it's a smaller SUV than an Explorer SUV.
So the Ford Interceptor is an Explorer.
Yeah.
But it has bells and whistles for police work. Is that,
Yep.
and that is why they preferred that over just the straight Ford Explorer with an upfit from Formula Ford?
No, they preferred the Ford from Claremont based on price.
Okay.
Those are the same vehicle.
Okay.
It's like what the dealer chooses to market them as, or what the sticker comes and says.
Okay. So it's the Formula Ford is $2,200 more.
Yeah.
You can get it upfitted for just under 64,000. The Interceptor, do we think that we can get it upfitted for less than 25,000? I mean, would it work out as a wash?
I think 25 was the upper end of the
Okay.
cost to
Okay.
outfit any of the vehicles.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just thinking in terms of
Mhm.
local.
I think for local servicing, we've had some success with the Ford dealers servicing cars that we didn't buy from them.
Okay.
And maybe not so much success with the other product
Okay.
because we're not buying from the dealer that's here.
I do think
We did send this out, through the state site and so on and so forth. We sent it direct to dealers who had bid for the town of Brandon in the past.
Gotcha.
I do think Mr. Bullock's point about staggering purchases is well taken too.
Well taken.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
And I'd like to see us give our local business the job of upfitting it too, or at least a chance to bid on it. So that way,
Yeah, I think we definitely should take bids from our local guy and from, Yipes Stripes. Yipes Stripes. So, yeah. I mean, it's an amount that we would need to take bids on
Right.
anyway, correct?
Yeah.
So,
So can I make a motion?
Mr. Nielsen,
Right, Todd Nielsen again. All this tax and spend is killing me. The state just goes crazy spending money. You guys are just spending money. We need to learn to live within our means. I don't know why we just can't have 2 properly maintained police cars and use them, because we can't afford this. I know I can't afford this. Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Nielsen. I would note that the town is currently in an excellent financial situation in terms of we wouldn't be taking on any debt to purchase these, and we also would not be hitting our budget too hard because of just the way the budget is working out, and and it sounds like we wouldn't even be touching the 1% fund, which is also a source of revenue that has come in very handy for us on purchases like this. Mr. Bueller.
Yeah, Brent Bueller. It seems to me like the Bronco is a bit of a vanity car compared to just an Explorer.
Because it's so cute.
I know. And so I'll see him coming, which is a good thing because, it's Bronco.
All right, Doug.
One last question for Mr. Hopkins, then I make my motion. Would you prefer A or C? A has some upfitting to it, maybe. One's in Claremont, one's in Rutland.
I think because, so upfitting turns out, like many things, to have a little bit more to it than you might imagine. And so our police department uses a certain brand of lights and controls and stuff, and it's called Federal. And not all of the folks who upfit use that brand. Some of these use something called Whelan or Whalen, which is maybe more common, but it's not what our officers are used to. And you can imagine that in an emergency situation, muscle memory is much more valuable than in other situations. Right. So I would recommend that you not necessarily be excited about buying an upfit cruiser, and that you buy a cruiser that's a vehicle that is a good price, that we can get serviced locally, and then we go look for the upfitting that can provide the equipment that our officers are used to.
I'm ready.
Okay.
I make a motion that we buy one Ford Interceptor from Claremont, New Hampshire, which is the number C.
It'll be a letter.
Letter C. Letter C.
Boy, Brian. Can't get
Brian.
anything past you.
Bingo.
That's the motion.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of purchasing the Ford Interceptor from Ford of Claremont, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No opposed. Okay, now we have decided to buy a truck and we decided to buy a cruiser. Let's talk about where the money's going to come from. Mr. Hopkins, do you have any
Yes.
suggestions?
Yes. So now that you've made the decisions, I think that's helpful. And my recommendation would be to fund the cruiser from the capital fund and entirely for simplicity, and fund the highway truck from fund balance entirely for simplicity, knowing that the fund balance will be replenished at the end of the year with the surplus.
We do have a very robust fund balance at this point.
It is robusty.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense. I like it for the simplicity. I like it for the fact that whatever's left is going to roll over into the fund balance anyway. And paying for the truck completely out of the fund balance is still not going to take it too far below. And I think we're still going to be in good shape on that for the 2 months that we're in that shape. Do I have a motion on funding?
I will make a motion that we follow the town manager's recommendations. So it would be funding the police cruiser entirely out of the capital fund and the Mack highway truck completely out of the fund balance.
Was that what you said? Was capital fund?
I had that right?
Capital fund for the cruiser, I think including the upfitting will
Yes,
come out of
should
that.
cover it all.
Yep. And then the fund
the-
balance for the highway truck.
Under the assumption that any proceeds we get from the highway truck would replenish the capital fund.
Yes.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor of the funding process laid out by the town manager, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
And we're going to go out to bid on the upfitting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
So I think we'll contact the folks in Claremont to reserve the cruiser, and then we'll very quickly try to get a bid request out for get some quotes. We might go on we go out for 30 days on when we're asking for a car or a truck, but for an upfitting, we maybe want to go out only like 14 days or
Gotcha.
something like that.
Okay, next on the agenda, Mr. Coolidge, town equipment discussion.
Just kind of briefly, like a town policy on equipment. Highway can't take vehicles or equipment home, and police aren't taking cruisers home. These vehicles, equipment are for town employees only. The van we have, I feel should be for town employees only, that's used for rec equipment and should be used for town business only by town employees only with no exceptions. This should be treated the same as the highway and the police. Furthermore, with the van being used for rec and town only business, it should not be seen at events that aren't town sponsored. It shouldn't be at the carnival. It shouldn't be at Solar Fest. Two examples of events that the town really has nothing to do with. And I think this is the most fair and equitable way. And if we let other people use it, it would appear to show favoritism, or if we let events use it, it just seems that town employees only across the board for all equipment.
Okay, so I mean, we do have a policy for employees that town equipment is not to be used for personal use. So we do have that within the personnel policy. I don't think we have a separate policy about the use of town vehicles. That's certainly something as we work through the policies we could talk about. I do have questions about what if there is like, it's an outside event, but there is a town presence because the town is participating in that event in some way? And is that an appropriate use if that is the case?
I don't feel it is.
If the town is participating?
If it's not a town sponsored event, I don't feel it needs to be there. I think it should be used for town business only.
Okay, I guess if we to develop that policy, we would need to kind of work out like what counts as town business and what doesn't count as town business. Do you want to maybe do a working group of a couple of select board members to work out a town vehicle policy? Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay. Do you want to be on the working group
I probably should be.
since it's your idea? So, do we have any other volunteers to work with Mr. Coolidge on a town vehicle policy?
I'm happy to if nobody else does, because I'm available, but if others want to step up, I'm happy to slide back.
Go right ahead. You and Brian can.
Will you send us the policy as it is written now in email?
I can certainly send you the piece of the personnel policy that Cecil referred to. I think that's all we
Yeah,
have.
I think that I looked through our policies briefly this morning and I didn't see anything specific to the use of town vehicles.
Probably wouldn't belong in the personnel policy.
Right.
Probably gotta be on.
Right. And I think that we could have it cover all town-owned vehicles.
So why don't Brian and I work on a draft and then we'll bring it forward to another meeting and discuss it again, et cetera, in open session, and then we'll work our way through it.
I think that sounds good. That's not something we need to vote on, so you guys can just go to it. Thank you for raising the issue and thank you for volunteering to work something out for us. All right, we've come to everyone's favorite part of the evening. Public comment on participation on items not already spoken on the agenda. Mr. Bullock?
Topic, but unfortunately, you might not have seen me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No worries. Not that I disagree. Most of the time, I will agree with you. But I think we're talking about the VW Buzz, the electric bus. I believe that was given to the town as part of a whatever we want to call it. But I do remember during several discussions on this, and I think it happened over more than one meeting, that this vehicle would be used for the public purpose of this town. Could be used. There could be an opportunity to use this particular vehicle for public use, such as Solar Fest and some other things that come up. I do remember that, not specific, but I do remember hearing public use.
Right. Well, and as I recall, we did discuss, and this may be something that will need to be factored into whatever the policy is, that as part of the grant application, we suggested possible public uses, and one of those uses was to transport members of the public to who are like mobility challenged or, had no vehicles of their own, to things like doctor's appointments or other things, taking into account our large senior population. There was also some discussion about training volunteers to be drivers, and specifically for that purpose, for that transfer purpose. So I think that as you guys get into the policy, maybe look at the original grant proposal and see what was in that too, because that may factor into it.
Yep.
Ms. DeSorda.
Is the van
Possible.
Bill?
It is not, I mean, not in the way that like you have those vans that can load somebody in with a
It doesn't
no
have
lift. Yeah, no wheelchair lift.
Anything else?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Where you been, Brad?
asleep. Graham Bueller again.
And it's like, you're not going to let this go by.
No, the town is in great financial shape. We get, we apply for the grants that are available, the revolving loan funds estate thing, I believe.
It was actually funded by USDA funding, repayment of a loan from the creation, or a loan that was made to Nexus, a chip manufacturer, no longer exists. The USDA created this loan program. They repay that money back to the town. The town then administers a revolving loan,
Which is a
program.
federal
Yeah.
organization. So my thing, Doug, I don't want to contradict you, but anytime there's grant money, state money, federal money, it's taxpayer dollars. And I'm glad we're getting our share, but it is our tax dollars. So that's makes me nuts. Thank you.
Mrs. Sorda.
I do have some questions. And the first one, I don't know if it's better for the board or if I should direct it to our House representative, but I read recently that the Act 181 tier, like tier 3, I don't know if it includes tier 1 or not, but that it was going to be delayed for 2 years. Can anyone on this board answer that?
The Rutland Regional Planning Commission is.
Just give a little tiny bit of what I learned. So I went to the meeting that was here that Rutland Regional hosted for Brandon, like as after their regional plan meeting. I went to that. Bill was there, chair of the planning commission. Jack Schneider was there. Some others folks. Who am I missing? From Brandon. Dave Butterfield.
Dave Butterfield.
Yep. So they were concentrating on tier 1B, which is the, kind of streamlining of Act 250 in the downtowns. And there was a question about tier 2 and tier 3, especially. And they basically said, they basically said that there was no information that they had that was going to be responsive to it because they were just focused on this future land use tier 1B situation. So I have also read the stories that there's moves to delay, but all I have read is probably what you have read. I don't have anything direct from the state. They haven't reached out to us.
So is that what this board voted to adapt a couple of meetings ago? Was the tier 1B?
Right. So the board voted to request tier 1B status for certain, for the downtowns and basically the downtown and the village of Forestdale.
So that's to make it easier for people to develop. But I wanted to actually question that because, we have parking issues. We've had issues with the police department where they're not even able to handle quality of life issues. We've got 29 new units going in on Jones Drive. And, we were already dealing with an inexperienced zoning officer. Now we have no zoning officer. So I'm just questioning the board's decision and wondering how you justify that decision. I know it passed 4-1. Do you really think Brandon can handle that potential type of development given these 4 samples that I gave you?
I just like to say that Larry was a good zoning administrator and he did good work.
I didn't say anything about the quality of his work, but he was called, after the demolition of the historic building, he was not calling him an inexperienced zoning officer isn't my words. It came from a member of the DRB board. So I'm just saying, and now we're going to start all over. So we're potentially going to be having the same inexperience. So I'm just wondering if this is really the best decision for Brandon.
So are you asking the board to reconsider its decision to request tier 1B status?
Yes.
Okay. So that's certainly something we can put on an agenda for further discussion. It's not something appropriate to address tonight.
Okay.
So I think that before there would be any sort of major development of the type you're concerned about, we would certainly have, tier 1B status doesn't grant developers carte blanche. There are still many hoops that have to be jumped through and things for the select board and the state to consider. So, I think that I think just simply asking for tier 1B status does not set us up to have a multi-story apartment building built in the middle of downtown. I think there's still a lot of stuff about Brandon itself that would restrict that kind of development. But, if the other members of the board are interested in revisiting that decision, we could always put it on the agenda for another meeting.
And I just want to mention too that I read another article recently in Vermont Digger where there was members of a town there was some sort of a huge hotel, I think, being built on a waterfront that didn't really mesh with the rest of the town, and people were trying to fight it. And the only recourse they had was Act 250 review, which they're still waiting for now. So just saying that it's not necessarily all bad to have some protection for the folks in this area. My worry is that this is a small town. That's part of our charm, and overdevelopment. Like if you see what's happened in Burlington, for instance, and the size of some of those condominiums and stuff, like I just don't feel like, the people who've chosen to live here have chosen to live here because Brandon is a small town. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So.
No, I absolutely understand that. And I think that your concerns are shared by a lot of people. I think that, when we make decisions, we're trying very hard to balance everyone's needs and desires. And, there's just such a need in Vermont for housing that people can actually afford, and trying to figure out the best way to have that housing without disrupting our
quality of life.
Yeah, I totally get that.
And I have another question. If I have specific questions about the zoning and stuff for the tier 1, is this the board, or do I need to go to the planning commission for that?
Those would be well directed to the plan.
Thank you very much. I have one more question. So I'm just wondering, there's a individual on one of the commissions. I was trying to do some research and I couldn't find this person. So I'm thinking that it's a nickname that's listed on the town site. So I'm just wondering that because there's
one of our town committees.
Commissioner, yeah, a town commissioner, yeah, and I couldn't find this individual anywhere. So I'm wondering if it's a nickname and if it's appropriate to have people, for transparency with nicknames, if they have a given name or a legal name, for stuff like this. And
can you share who this person is?
What's that? I'll tell you afterwards. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
You are allowed in Vermont to run for office under whatever name you choose to put on the ballot. It can be a nickname. I don't know exactly who we might be thinking of. The town's desire is never to be less than transparent. I can't think of what we're talking about with the name. I'm not sure who it might be, but we will be happy to try to make things as clear as possible. Absolutely.
I mean, my full name's Jeffrey. That's never listed anywhere, but.
And sadly, my name is really Cecil.
Madam Chair, and I just wanted to speak more to what Mrs. Zorda was talking about, and something alluding to something, I guess, an announcement you made right at the beginning of this meeting about openings. We have a fairly robust Brandon land use ordinance that, for instance, if your neighbor is putting up a sign on their property, there's a big red P, and if you're a neighbor, you can appeal that decision. You can appeal the decision to the Development Review Board. The Development Review Board is kind of like our version of the environmental court that makes decisions about what can happen in Brandon. So I implore you, if you're interested in this kind of thing, you have an opportunity, there's an opening on the Development Review Board to be a part of those decisions that are made before they leave Brandon about things that happen in Brandon.
Thank you.
If I could just throw out one more thing on Act 181, which again, I'm following from a outside perspective, watching what's going on at the state. Seems like it might change. Hard to say where exactly the legislature and governor are going to fall on that. I hope it does. I think they could use another solid look at it for any number of reasons. I think the Tier 1B status was, of the options we were given, the one that made the most sense for Brandon. Because yes, we want to preserve the quality of the town. I love the quality of this town. I do not want to see it substantially changed. I do want to see people who want to open businesses not get held up in Act 250 paperwork for 3 years and have to pay thousands of dollars about it, which is something I've heard from several people who have been, swayed off of trying to start something because the regulations were so onerous with Act 250. So we were trying, I think, the goal of Act 181 was to find a compromise there, and I think Tier 1B was the compromise best suited to downtown Brandon. I know there's a lot of issues with the road rule and things in the more rural tiers, which is not something that we really got into with the 1B designation. But just to say, I hope they take another look at 181 and either do it in a few smaller steps or find a better path forward for everyone.
Thank you.
I just want to, we went from a 1 acre town to a 10 acre town, which I thought was supposed to address that concern already. So
The concern being, so there's always going to be Brandon local zoning.
Yes. This was Act 250 zoning is what I was talking about. Not
Right.
local.
Act 250 zoning is now only on parcels over 10 acres.
Right.
Right. A Tier 1B status is it's relaxed the number of acres required per dwelling unit when where there's where there's public water and sewer.
Right.
Different parts of the same problem.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't know if you can answer this question, but this is the one of the questions I had was, I looked at the Tier 1 like zoning maps, and it doesn't look like, although from my understanding of the Bluo, that it's pretty much anybody on town water and sewer. And if they were going to do that, why do they have only specific areas that they're saying can be Tier 1? Wouldn't the whole town on the municipal water and sewer be open to that type of development? Why is it only certain neighborhoods in certain areas that are getting the Tier 1?
There's not a lot of addresses that are on both public water and sewer that are not included in the Tier 1B. There's a lot of addresses, as you know, that are on public water, but not public sewer. Those are not covered.
So the difference is there's no public sewer.
That's a key difference, right? Because septic systems take a lot of space.
Are there like zoning maps available somewhere where we can see where the water and the sewer?
That is funny that you should ask. So I was just before the trustees of public funds last week, and our maps are very, very old. They're probably 60 years old. They're there. They're on the website. In fact, you can look at them on the website.
On the Brandontown.
On the Brandontown website, it says like utility map downtown, utility map Forestdale, I think are the two titles. It's just two big maps. They're quite hard to discern. So I was actually asking the trustees whether they would consider funding a modern mapping project for the wastewater collection system with money from the trustees of public funds. And they were inclined to say yes, they would like me to go and find out what that would cost and get some bids. But basically, yeah, if there's water and sewer, the state is saying that's where we want development to happen because Brandon has plenty of capacity in its sewer system and it has plenty of production in its water system. The state has been very, very clear over a number of years now. The state wants growth where there is already density. They don't want density where there is rural or conservation considerations and there would be new infrastructure required. That's the tier 3 stuff that you were referring to earlier. Those tier 3 areas are going to be made harder to develop.
Well, one of the concerning areas is Forestdale, and because that doesn't seem like it's a very dense area to me, except for maybe in the Worsbrook.
Well,
And I'm not sure if that's
North,
what's
North
on the
Street
book.
and North Street, Furnace Road, Forestdale Road down to the senior center are considered fairly densely settled, and those are all public water and
So
sewer.
those are the ones on the tier.
I didn't say you were. I said North Street. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Thank you.
All right. Okay.
Motion, excuse me, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Non-debatable, all in favor?
Aye.